Okay, now we are live.
Are we really?
Welcome,
Well, goodness gracious.
everybody.
Hello.
How is everybody out there today?
Exactly. I hope everyone is
Hopefully.
doing well. How are you doing, Cress?
Oh, the usual.
I
I
gotcha.
got the,
Bad.
I got the, it's not bad. I got the good news.
Oh, really? What'd you get?
Yeah, I got the good news that I'm free of Corona Chan. I don't have the coronavirus.
That's awesome. So you remember in our very first broadcast that we had back a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away?
Yeah.
Basically, you said you were going to die from this horrible beer virus, and looks like that was an exaggeration of someone's report.
Well,
So
thankfully.
I'm glad you're among the living because a lot of people care and love you, and congratulations on not dying.
Yeah,
Very, very
no.
good things to have.
Very, very good things. So we have a few
Yes.
things to chat about today.
Oh,
So
really? What are we
yeah,
chatting about today? Unfortunately, I
well,
didn't get the show notes, so I'm sort of running on a fly here.
no worries. I'm basically gonna be busting out my best what you call it, be busting out my best Dr. Phil today. So we're gonna be talking about internet drama,
Drama on the internet.
drama on the internet,
That's right.
drama on the internet. So we're gonna be talking about that a little bit today. We're gonna be talking
Awesome.
about basically internet drama and how it can how it affects your real life and
Really?
how to avoid that and if you're stuck in the middle of it, if you're embroiled in the middle of it, how to get
Mhm.
yourself free of that.
Oh,
And yeah, so we're gonna be digging into that a little bit. And I
sounds
think
very intriguing.
I thought before that it would probably be
Mhm.
pertinent to crack open this Bailey's that I got here.
You got Bailey's?
I do. I have Bailey's, the original Irish cream.
That's awesome.
As you can probably hear me opening it.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
I'm basically gonna be having a little bit of that
And
today.
I'm drilling.
Yeah, it's good
That's
stuff.
awesome. Oh, I can attest to that.
And as we're warming up the show and warming up our audience for this wonderful talk that we're about to have today, I figured that we could probably kick off the show and start talking about a little bit about what was it called? The conventions. So recently,
Conventions.
yeah, a
All
little bit
right.
about.
I like that topic.
I know we keep talking about conventions,
Of
but
course.
this topic is more so about just lay the groundwork here.
Mm.
This is to talk about more of the. We're going to be talking about everything going virtual
Okay.
right now because like everything's going virtual.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there was a talk right recently. I saw an article
Hmm.
from News Talk 1010,
Yep.
and they were talking about how Toronto just announced that they are canceling gatherings.
Wow. That sounds
right
like a lot of
right up.
bureaucracy being canceled.
Well, they're canceling gatherings right up until the end of August,
Oh boy.
which puts certain things. So basically, anything over 500 people
Hmm.
is canceled until the end of July,
Wow.
and anything with over 25,000 people is canceled until the end of August.
Uh-oh. Doesn't quite sound too good for people who've got their conventions all lined up for the year, now, does it?
So
Mm.
that is the really interesting part here because that puts Fan Expo in jeopardy, does it not?
Well, I think it puts something in jeopardy. I would agree with that. But at the same time here, as us being internet suave as we are, has Fan Expo released any information on this particular new stuff that's going down the pipes here?
Yeah, unfortunately, no. So there has
They have
not
not.
not been any updates from Fan Expo about what they're planning on doing. Now, part of the reason because of that, it seems to be like they're waiting to see what happens with Toronto.
Mhm.
If they're going to be pushing through in August, if they're going to be pushing through further restrictions, and they're kind of playing a wait and see game right now.
Mhm.
But there's speculation that they might be going virtual.
Fan Expo going virtual.
They might go for a virtual experience.
Is that worth the $125 VIP pass people buy?
That's the big question, right? Are they going to be are they going to be using that for like the following year, or like what are they going to be doing?
Well, it's going to be really tough for them because at the same time, everyone knows that the Fan Expo corporation is more than just one event. So, when one particular domino falls, it doesn't take much for the other ones to fall. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting because it's sort of like, hey, kids, we got this virtual thing for you for all those people who spend over, $100+ on your pass and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
and there's
Uh-huh.
there's another Toronto convention that's going to be holding one in July. So everything seems to be moving towards this digital content now. So
Of course.
I'm curious as to, because I mean we saw one, there was Arta, like, I don't know what the heck it was, but they did an online convention for about a week or so.
Oh,
And
that's always fun, being stuck in a week convention for about a week.
well, it was really interesting. It was really
Yeah.
interesting because basically half of their panels
Mm-hmm.
they had as pre-recorded videos, so basically
Mhm.
YouTube videos that they released and debuted
Mhm.
for their convention, like quote unquote
Mhm.
online convention.
Mhm.
And they had also,
Mhm.
and they had some live panels.
Mhm.
And it seems to be that that's the going trend right now, is that they're going to be trying to get online, like they're trying to get pre-recorded videos, like people out there in the audience, I mean, and people watching this at home later on,
Yeah.
please let us know in the comments or in the chat right now, like, what do you think? Would you want to either pay, or would you want to spend money or time for that matter,
Mhm.
watching panels during just pre-recorded videos? Or would
Mm.
you, or like, I mean, part of that is the experience, right?
Of course, going out, meeting your buddies,
The
sitting down.
interactivity.
That's right. Yep. And on top of that, when people ask that question, please don't split any hairs. Oh, you get it? Wigs, splitting hairs. Oh,
Wah,
goodness gracious.
wah.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I think that's a very, very interesting question, especially for individuals who've been going to convention for what, 20, 30 years? Like, basically, what do they look for at a convention? Now, since we got this whole beer virus thing floating around and
Yeah,
everyone's going virtual, how does it take away from your convention experience? As a matter of fact, if we take things just one step further, um, how much are you willing to pay?
exactly.
Because the way I look at it, virtual content is great and all, but there's a little bit of plastic about it, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't really feel like the price of admission.
Well,
So,
and that's the big question, because I know stuff like Games Done Quick, like
mhm.
they get donations all the time, but they don't charge for you to watch, right?
And
They
those are
just,
donations.
and those are just donations to
Mhm.
whatever charity they're doing at the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Blaze Firestorm, welcome to the chat. Blaze Firestorm says, "I would not. I'd rather go to a convention. This is why I pay." I mean,
Mm.
absolutely. You get to have that interactivity with people. You get to have that like that. Sometimes you have that one-on-one, but like other times it's like, you have that fan experience, right? I mean, we had that at Kitchener Comic Con. Do you think it would have been as big of a moment to have people chanting and you could hear it from like the entrance to the convention? Would that be as big of a moment if that was just strictly online?
Nothing can replace the improv moments that take place at a convention, especially when they're good moments. And the thing
Yeah.
is that the answer to that question, to their crumb, is absolutely not. Because the thing is that how do you make an online moment? You know what I mean?
Well,
The,
that's
the
that's
answer
the
is
question.
the answer is I don't think you can. Because it's sort of like, what does everyone press the like button so many times? Does people just throw
Oh,
so much money at a cause? Like, hmm. So again,
so we have. So I'm going to pause this conversation really
mhm,
quickly.
okay,
We'll come back to it in a little bit here because we do have a guest joining us
we do. Who is
for the
joining us
second
today?
half. For the second half of this conversation here.
All right.
So this is somebody that people in chat may know, people at home may know. This is
Mhm.
Ron Toye. I'm hoping I get the name right here.
All right.
He's just getting his camera set up here. So we're going to be talking about a little bit about online drama
All right.
and everything else. And yeah, I was going to bring him on the show if he's ready there.
Awesome.
So here we go. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Hey, how's it going, you guys? And
Good afternoon,
Chris, how
Mr.
you doing?
Toye.
Hey,
How you doing today?
doing well?
Excellent. Excellent.
Excellent.
All right. So yeah, we were just we were just talking briefly before you came in about the online experience for conventions now because of COVID-19, and so we're transitioning into the new topic here that we have you on. But yeah,
Mhm.
so for the folks that might not know you, which I don't know how many
Right.
those would be, why don't you just introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, I'm Ron, a loan officer here in Dallas, and you all probably know that there's other stuff that has happened throughout the year. But yeah, Monica's my fiance, and yeah, just here to answer any questions you have.
Right on, right on.
Awesome.
Well, before we jump into the main event, I do want to just ask your question. Just ask you a couple things, so we can wrap up this topic before we before we move on. Do you yourself go to many conventions?
Usually 5 to 10 a year, maybe, with Monica.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. Do you just hang out with your fiance, or do you go into go into the panels and stuff like that?
That's a great question. So it really depends on the situation and also where and when it is, who's there, who's on it, things like that. A lot of times when I first started going, I had never been to one before. And then now that I've kind of gotten a little bit more used to the scene and used to the people, it's kind of changed. But it really depends on what the panel is. But if I do, I usually either sit in the back or on the front to listen and join in on the panel discussion sometimes.
That's cool.
That's awesome. All right. So I guess you've been a part of some of the fan experiences then, like the impromptu things that you just can't really script. So in your opinion, what would you think of just conventions going strictly digital?
There is a couple of things that I think that really does help. There's a lot of fans that can't make it to conventions, either physically or some of them have agoraphobia or different things that prevent them from going. And so I think it opens up a new avenue for people to be able to experience and interact with the celebrities that they like from their home where they feel comfortable. So I feel that while the public and live events won't stop, I feel like it is a nice embrace for the future of conventions, pushing towards the online opportunities that are out there.
Well, I agree too. I mean, that was something that that myself and Mr. Hop here were implementing in the convention that we run. We were actually just test driving it this year, and hopefully going to have it next year in a bigger capacity. Give people a chance to get interactive when they otherwise wouldn't be able to, or wouldn't be able to come in. So I guess that transitions fairly well to our next topic here. Because some people can be embroiled in a bit of drama. Sometimes they might not want to show up in person. Sometimes they might not want to see a person that's there or whatever else.
Right.
So, so you yourself have been in a bit of a pickle, I guess, over this past year.
Yep.
Yeah. So, just if there's anything that you want to say briefly before we get into questions, did you want to just give us a brief summary of that?
Really, it's just, I think, been a lot of different things, obviously heated on either side of the spectrum, but really hoping that some middle ground and just communication can help calm some of the extremes on both sides. Because I think I listened to one of your streams earlier, Chris, and I really appreciate your approach towards just education and discussion rather than condemnation and strife. And, some of the times I've been really vocal, obviously, and I can be mean sometimes, rude, and other sides, but hopefully, like we go, as the things move forward, it just comes back down to a real position of just humans talking, having maybe differences of opinions, but still continuing to be decent to each other and open to discussion. So, that's all I have to say really about the overview of it all, is that I'm here, I'm a human, and I'm willing to talk with anybody, and nobody has to, I don't care if somebody has one opinion or the other. If they're decent and just want to talk, cool. I don't mind it. And that's where I've always been. And I think sometimes either side gets painted in a horrible light, where if you talk to them at a face-to-face level, it's not the same persona. And so I wanted to give opportunities to people who might be on the other side a chance to talk to me, not to change their opinion, but just to see that I'm just as human as anyone else, Oh,
of course. And I think that's a great point. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen the other videos and where we stand on the situation and everything else like that. So the reason why I wanted to reach out to you was very much that, I wanted to see, because on the other side of the fence here, we don't really see or hear what happens to yourself or your friends. And I just wanted to, I personally would like to know, what kind of things have you been dealing with, say offline? Because we all see what's been happening online, and that's pretty public, right?
Right.
So what's been happening to you offline?
So that's a great question, and I appreciate, just the opportunity for you to bring me on your show and have the chance to talk to you guys and your audience and you, Cress, like just the way you position things and help educate. And I did watch some of the positive stuff from your convention that you guys did, and it looked like it was very positive.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yes, it
And
was.
I'm
A lot of
happy
good
to see
moments.
the fans getting an opportunity to enjoy an event. I'm sorry, like from my mouth,
Mhm.
I'm sorry that anyone ever harassed your event.
Well,
I
thank
can't
you.
change and
That
speak for everyone, but I hope that you could probably see that I never contacted anyone there because I don't agree with that type of behavior. Um, it While there was a chant, it's for the fans. It
Yeah.
is a lot of times for the fans and for the attendees and for the
Yeah.
guests that are there. And that's where I think a lot of the misconception has happened. And it's in the court documents. I said this very clearly in some of the tweets that they had said were defamatory was that, it looks like he's done some of the things that needed to be and changed some stuff. And it looks like you guys had a very successful event. No
We,
drama.
we we did, and then one of the few things from my end of things is that I really
Yeah.
do appreciate the apology because basically putting a free event like this, especially in the regional Waterloo, is not an easy task into itself because both
Right.
the stress of both on a financial level as well as a
Right.
social level is quite substantial into
Right.
itself, let alone the extra pressure of bringing in a larger guest name or anything else like that. But however, the bottom line is we all had a lot of fun. We
Yeah.
basically put it all together for our 6th year, and at the same time, it's something we give to the community because we do believe in a form of community. Plus, on top of that, generating
Yeah.
opportunities. And again, you're absolutely correct. It was a lot of fun, and it was a really good time from whom came to our event.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, and I said this in my things as well, that, while I can have a personal feeling about a person, doesn't mean that I think everyone else should have the same point of view. Because, I'll probably get yelled at for saying this. But it's in the court record, so I can say whatever is in the court record. I honestly do feel like he'll do whatever it takes to be where he needs to be for his fans because he does love his fans. It's very clear.
Yes.
And so whatever happens with the lawsuit, I'm pretty confident that his determination to do whatever it takes to be able to come and visit with them, he'll do it.
And connect
And
with them and
because
stuff
he
like
loves
that.
them. Yeah, it's very evident. And
Yeah.
that's where I hate the fact that a lot of things have been twisted where it's like want him dead and all these other things because it's just not accurate. I can say I want to fight the person in a tweet from a long time ago because that was a personal opinion back then.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean I hate the dude or don't want or wouldn't ever consider any level of communication professionally with the person.
Hmm.
It's a dichotomy in any relationship that you can be upset at somebody for something, but also not want them to be completely destroyed or never respected again. It's a challenge, but it's possible. I'm sure there's been people that you've not liked at some point, but then it wouldn't be like you hate them and never want to see them to succeed ever in life,
Well, there's been a lot of emotions over the past, like, however many months, I think 16 months or something at this
Mhm.
point. But there's been a lot of emotion that's been going on. So one thing I just did want to ask while it's still fresh here is it sounds like your tone now has changed a lot dramatically from what it was.
Mhm.
Like, is there, like, what is your opinion right now? Because I mean, like, looking at what you said before in your tweets and everything else like that, it seems like you've kind of changed your opinion about things. Is that the case?
Well, it's kind of there's different tones in different types of tweets. If somebody's like some of the tweets, a lot of people mentioned there were people coming at me saying certain things and horrible, deplorable things about Monica and about me and assumptions based on things that might have been exaggerated and pushed on them from other sources. And that's where it's kind of gotten a little bit blown up and confused and words put in our mouths, in my mouth specifically, about what I actually think and believe. And so what I honestly, it's been consistent. I feel like, um, based on what his original statement was, that he was going to do the things that I was hoping and everyone else was hoping, which is evident. You can see photos where his posture is different with fans, his demeanor and things like that. And that's where another part is confusing. It's not just about that, like the interaction with fans. That's not necessarily the thing that this was supposed to be about. It was just more, whenever I mention those things, it's to show that if there was a concern about reputation, knowing that these things could bring some level of heat on you, why continue to do them and then sue for a diminished reputation? And that's where I felt like maybe he possibly was taken advantage of in a moment where he's probably terrified. And that's unfortunate, because when we fought to keep everything open, we knew that my past divorce stuff would be potentially coming out. And I don't shy away from it. I know a lot of people think I try to justify it or make excuses, and I don't. My past behavior was deplorable. It's unacceptable. No lady deserves to be treated that way. I absolutely slapped her in the thigh with the remote after, a interaction with her, and it was wrong. I don't make excuses for that. I should never have made empty threats. Like, there's no excuse. But that was 8 years ago, and I can't convince anyone other than what they want to believe. But that's the truth. I've never tried to defend it, make any excuses for it. I owned up for it.
Yeah.
And
that's tough.
Well,
yeah,
it's a lot.
A lot of stuff that went behind the scenes, but I wouldn't dignify I wouldn't try to justify my actions with trying to show all this backstory and everything that was going on in that time period, because it's not fair to her or anyone else to try to then justify, in my opinion, that's an example of toxic masculinity. Whenever I was scared and hurt, I used anger instead of just communicating my real feelings, and that's where it became toxic.
So there's a lot to unpack there. So I just want to take it just piece by piece here, just for a moment. So just for the audience out there, I just want to know. So like you said that you don't really feel like you need to justify, but you've been justifying it. So like how has everything that's been happening over the past year and a half, and with all the stuff about your divorce and everything else and all these details coming out, how has that affected your real life?
Really, that part hasn't really affected anything in my real life. I think some people don't realize that I have really done the work that I said online. And now on Monday, they'll be able to see a video with me and my ex-wife, Andrea. She's one of my realtor partners who refers me a lot of business. And I'm very proud that our relationship has come full circle and we're back to being friends again. And co-parenting, and my son lives with me. I have custody of him, and I have for the last 2 years. And, it's been a good evolution. So that part of it hasn't really affected my life. I have had people try to email my company and employers and other stuff, pointing in the court record, but that was a civil dispute. I'm a licensed loan officer. So if I had ever broken any laws or committed any crimes, I literally couldn't be licensed. So
right.
Yeah.
It was, but it hasn't really affected my day-to-day life in a sense. Okay. And it's more just stress and, frustration, because I want to talk about it, because I feel like it's an opportunity to share that, there's times where you can be screwed up and do stupid stuff, but then you can make changes in the future,
Like we never ever done any stupid stuff in our life. Mistakes are made. You try to move forward, look at the better side of things, and
And part of the reason that I wanted you to come on today, I mean, a bit selfishly, is because I wanted to help you out a little bit as well. Because I mean, I know that we've Mr. Hop and I have gone through a fair bit of dramatics ourselves, and some things centering around things that are beyond your control. But one thing is I wanted to bring you on here and help you out a little bit as well, because some of the tactics and things that we've gone through, I think, kind of cross over in different respects. And I'm seeing a lot of mistakes that you're making that I made years ago. And I wanted to try and I'm not here to tell you what to do, and I'm not here to try and convince you to do X, Y, or Z.
Right.
But one of the questions I have to ask you, if it's not affecting your real life, then why do you keep going on like YouTube comments or websites and trying to convince people and trying to justify to people that have made it like pretty clear that they don't care?
Right. That's a fair question, and I honestly really do appreciate your efforts, because I'm not really well versed on internet stuff and
Mhm.
social media. When I first started my Twitter a few years ago, Monica had to tell me that it's okay for people to follow you because I thought they were creepy. I'm like, who are these people following me? They don't know me. It's just like,
Who are
this is
these
what Twitter is
people?
for.
Why are they following me?
Yes.
What's going on? I'm all confused.
And so I had no idea. And the thing is, it's not necessarily affecting me, but it does, in a sense, affect it subconsciously, because if you go into Google, and being a person that has to have some level of social presence because of my job, if you Google my name, the videos that come up are all of these like tabloid looking things that just, it's not nice. And some of my realtors have received stuff from people making just horrible comments. And while they actually know me, and they know it's kind of just people being people.
Yeah.
So I go on there, one, because I want to. I know that probably sounds stupid, but it is what it is. And second, I don't like. I know that people think about cancel culture, and that's a big thing. I don't know. Either side seems a bit cancelly. You know what I mean? It's like I just want to share my opinion and clarify some issues when I feel like it's going to an extreme. Because people they can make accusations, or they can make opinions about me all they want. I've seen an abuser, this thing, that's their opinion. It's justified, I guess, if they want to say that because of my previous court stuff.
Yeah.
But it's sad that just civil discussion can't happen. It has to be to the extreme, you know what I mean? Like without even having a chat with somebody. But that's kind of why.
And that's kind of like it's because it's emotionally charged, right? I mean, it's been going on. Both sides have been trading blows for so long, and I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of emotion invested in it, and they don't really know why, right? I mean, like you have it obviously because you're in the middle of a situation with your fiance,
Right.
And the other side of this has it obviously because they were affected by it,
Right.
that party and his immediate friends and family.
Right.
But you have like all these supporters on both sides that they want to cheer on their side. They want their side to win. They've picked whatever else, and I agree. I mean, there's extremes on both sides, and I think we both need to calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
We've seen a little bit of nonsense happening with the coronavirus, keeping everybody indoors, and people getting a little bit stir crazy and bored.
A little bit nuts.
Just a little bit nuts. But hopefully that light's at the end of the tunnel pretty soon. But honestly, though, like I really like to see this situation get better. I mean, litigation stuff aside, right? Because that people can, like, judges can rule on things, and people still have their opinions after it. I mean, just look at the OJ trial.
Yeah,
that happened, and then years later, civil litigation, and things changed. But the fact of the matter is, it's like in order for this emotional scarring to heal on both sides, we need to sit down. We need to talk this to a point. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's being discussed, but I got to ask you, because like I have you on the stream, like I have you on the show right now. I have to ask you, Ron, at what point are you going to stop letting people that you're never going to see in your life have a control over you?
That's a great question. I like challenging questions because it puts you in a weird spot, because it is a level of control because I have to respond.
Well, that's the funny thing. Do you really have to?
That's the conundrum. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't.
One of the few things that I went through on a very personal level is that I had a social media manager, and basically told me just not to say anything.
Yep.
And of course, the thing is, as Crumb could completely confess here, I'm a bit of a closet attention whore. I like the attention. I like getting mucked in there. I like putting people back in their place, especially 100%. And when I was given this advice, it was like completely a 180 of what my natural aptitude is.
Right.
So the thing is that didn't say a word, not a single word.
And if you know anything about Mr. Hop, eventually, it's very difficult for him to say nothing.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it is a challenge because, it's hard to sit back and let people just say stuff, because I'm from a military family, so I've traveled a lot, and being when I was a kid, I was a very scrawny little Irish guy who moved around everywhere. So
Mhm.
fighting was something I had to do all the time. And you're a new kid every 6 months into a new school. So bullying is something I've had to deal with. So some of the online stuff is like, if I sit back and say nothing while they're saying something, is that fair to me? Because then I'm being told I can't say anything. And it's that weird dichotomy again. It's like,
No, you're absolutely correct. And the thing is that,
Absolutely.
and then at the same time, on mine, of things, it's kind of weird how our how our lives are sort of like parallel. Because the thing is that, again, when I was growing up, my mother's ex was a military man.
yep,
Basically traveled a lot from place to place, and again, sort of the same type of scenarios. You know, if someone comes up and says, "Hey, who are you?" It's like,
yeah.
well, who do you think I am?
What
You
time,
know,
here's what time it is. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But the
Yep,
thing is that now we're still living in this digital age where everything is there for like ever and ever and
yep.
ever, and it's
Oh, I know
screenshot,
now. Yeah.
document. It's like, oh, it, right? Like back a few
Yes.
years ago, again, part of my forward language, you can tell someone to go fuck themselves,
Yes.
and then up at the end of it. And the thing is that, again, you know, they or you get into a fight, you punch them in the face, and they punch you in the face, and
It's
you
over.
just walk away. Yeah, it's done.
Yep.
Nowadays, it's like, well, remember that thing that happened back 12 years ago? What? And that one thing that happened back 30 years ago? What?
Yep.
Statute
Exactly.
of limitations does not apply online.
Right.
So,
And that's where it's like, it sucks because you're right. And in my experience, usually after I had a good fist fight with somebody, we ended up being buddies afterwards. Done. You know what I mean?
yes.
We handled it, it's over, done. And so that's like the weird, in a sense, like buildup that's online, is that you get this tension buildup, but where's the release? Where's the punch in the face,
Yeah.
bloody nose, and then let's hug it out, you know?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't.
And you let it go and you
Yeah.
walk away from it. And
Yep.
it's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
and now in
Right.
today's time, it's like, geez, say one wrong thing to the
Right.
wrong person that follows you pretty much for the rest of your life.
And
Goodness
that's the
gracious.
interesting thing about online too, where I know in the beginning people were like saying, well, I'm just asking a question.
Mhm.
But what was weird for me is I'm not used to Twitter. And so if one person's asking it, it made me think of the images in movies where like you have a schoolyard of people circling around someone, like chanting, is how
Yeah.
I felt sometimes. I'm like, what the fuck? I
Yeah.
don't need this many people. How am I getting 1,000 tweets a day
Yeah.
asking the same thing? I didn't know there was such thing as freaking bots and alt accounts and stuff like that. I didn't know anything. And then I found out you can buy them for Twitter for like $50. You can buy 1,000 bots. And it's like,
You
okay,
can. It's amazing.
if I could go back in time, I probably wouldn't have replied to all those people because
Yeah.
you can see 400. I still believe the same thing, but I probably wouldn't have engaged that many people.
Yeah.
They were tweeting at me. I'm like, I gotta screw you. Don't tweet at me. And now I know how Twitter works. So,
Well, the funny thing is, when I first started,
offended, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure how that happened.
it's kind of funny because I first started Twitter was the exact same thing. It's sort of like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm always used to getting direct messages, stuff like that. And all of a sudden, in the dark parts of the Twitter sphere, there's this little it's just like, at Recepit, are you still coming over to my place today? And it's like, I get this message like 2 weeks later. It's like,
Yes.
what? So
Yeah, was this?
totally can relate. Totally
Yep.
can relate.
Well, it is really interesting because I mean I'm not super religious myself. Like
Mhm.
I'm a pagan. I'm practicing pagan,
Awesome.
and so I'm gonna take a branch from Christianity here, a little bit from that lore. So like the
Which
internet,
they took stuff from you, so it's totally fair.
exactly. Turnabout's fair play.
Yep.
So I'm gonna say like the internet was kind of like the apple from Eden, right? We took that apple and we've taken a bite from that apple. We can't go back to where we were before. Like
Right.
this, like, from both yourself and Mr. Hop are from like a different era where things were much different in terms of communication. We're in a much different world of communication now, where literally everything that like there's no way 30 years ago you could have looked ahead in the future and said, what I do today is going to determine my something that happens like 40 years down the line, right? So that's the thing. And I did want to ask really quickly, so just people out there are wondering, were you the one that was commenting on Come Geek some videos and stuff like that?
Oh yes, and I did create a Kiwi Farms thing and made some comments. It took an act of Congress to get verified on there, but we finally got that.
I just wanted to make sure, just straight from your mouth, before anybody else were questioning about that. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that was 100% me.
Yeah. So to go back to the other point, we're at a different age of communication now,
Mhm.
and all that stuff. So like, I know it's difficult because like I'm at that age now. Like I'm not as old as Mr. Hop, but
Stop it.
We have about a generation between us. But
Uh-huh.
so I'm at that age now
Oh,
where
old guy.
my growing up and my term, like my way of educating and all that stuff and communication, that's changing before my eyes. So like
Right.
that's it's different for me. So it's weird for me too. But I am seeing the moving pieces, right? So the things are like, so I like to take a bit from my practicing religion as well. So like as I look at the nature side of things,
Mhm.
you look at what you can control, right? And I can't get stressed out about every leaf that falls off the tree. I can't get stressed out about every squirrel that crosses the street, right? I
Right.
can't control nature. I can't control water. I can't control wind. I can contain it for a brief amount of time,
Right.
but at the end of the day, nature is going to go at its own pace.
Right.
So when you look at and apply that to life, you can't control what everyone else does. You can't stress out about what everyone else does. And so like you said, by me asking you that question and you thinking that you had to reply to it, the correct answer is no, you don't have to reply.
Right.
You don't have to answer things that people that ask you. And at the end of the day, if Johnny123 on Twitter or Instagram has something negative to say about
That
you,
Johnny guy.
you don't need to make a video or you don't need to make a response to it,
Right.
right? So
That-
my question is like, how over the past year and a half, I guess, how have you been dealing with that change, like learning and understanding and making progress to changing the way that you communicate?
Well, I would say sometimes successfully, sometimes not, but I do read a lot. And I know some people joke about it, but I try to read at least 1 to 2 books a week. Um, and really trying to work on professional communication. And not that I always am successful, it's just an effort, but you know,
Yeah.
picking and choosing battles. Sometimes it's fun to engage. That's the carnal nature of things. Again, the tempting fruit that you brought up, and you know, it's interesting to think about the fruit in itself. If we even go back into further about it, if it more about the fact that it was probably more indicative of sex, and then the addiction of that, and internet, and the release of endorphins in our brains when we engage in fights, because
Yeah.
cortisol is an addictive thing. And for me, when my fight or flight mechanism kicks in, I'm not a flighter. I'm definitely a fighter. Most of that was a kind of put into me as a young kid. I grew up physically abused. My parents loved me, but they learn that type of behavior from their parents and their parents. But when you can't go to school for a few days because you got belt marks and extension cord marks all over your body and face, it changes a person for a little bit. But
Yeah.
you deal with that, you feel like that's the behavior you need to do to control situations. And so balancing that, feel a rush of emotion of I'm under attack. So what is my natural mode? Default aggressive, go after, versus
Yeah.
sit back. And what you've wisely counseled through some of these suggestive questions is maybe just sit it in the drawer, old Lincoln style, and just give it 3 or 4 days to simmer before sending that message or that tweet or that video would probably be wiser counsel. But sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I suck. And that's just how it is sometimes.
It's a learning process, right? I
Mhm.
mean, like the people in this live stream right now, like I don't necessarily judge people. I try to hold off on judging people. Like, of course, I'm going to have opinions about people, but those opinions can change,
Yeah.
and things like that. And I'm hoping that again, I'm not here to berate you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just
Right.
I'm trying to help you make some better decisions by
Yeah.
by ways of things that I've gone through, right? The experiences that I've had and the mistakes that I've made, and hopefully that will translate into some more wisdom on your side as
I'll
well.
take it.
So yeah, and I mean, like just from everything that we've discussed, like you said, it's best to wait on things, not reply, because in the digital age, obviously we have that snap. We have that snap thing. Back
Right.
10 years ago, we didn't necessarily have that. We couldn't necessarily like call somebody up and make them pick up the phone and say, "Hey, you're an asshole,"
Right.
Whereas now we can write out full novels on the internet, and then that's copied on 15 different websites, and we can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then you can jack with
My dad
video
called it
analytics.
some trouble.
make a video or two, post it with links, post it all these forums, and now it doesn't. It's intense. You're right. Yeah,
It is intense.
lift your ringer up. Now they can't even get through to your house. Back in the day, well, that's not 10 years ago. Jesus Christ, how fast time flies. But you just leave your phone on, and now they can't get through. There's no call waiting.
that was like the original form of blocking, right?
Yeah.
So I do have to ask this, like,
Sure.
knowing what you know now, right? Like, kind of maybe jump the gun a little bit with some of the comments that you made a year and a half ago, like justified or not. Because like I understand emotion, being emotional, things in the heat of the moment. Hindsight's 2020, right?
Right.
Going back to say December of 2018, would you have done things differently?
Yes, without question. I stand by each of the things that I said. I just would not have engaged as many people that tweeted at me. I got these notifications. My phone would blow up, bing, 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 bing. I would have realized that a lot of those people were alt accounts and things like that. So I would not have responded to them as much. So that would have drastically reduced the amount of tweets that I had. But what the contents of the tweets are things that I believed back then and still do to this day. I just would not have engaged with the people that clearly, I was trying to help and educate and show my side, but my side doesn't matter to a lot of people. And that's something that I probably would have handled differently because, like you had mentioned earlier, it's not my position to have to teach or educate or change someone else's opinion. And that's where the thing I would have definitely done differently is I just would not have made as many tweets in response to other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and another question that I do have. So, like, because you watched my video about the broken staircase thing,
Yep.
and like I can't stand that word because it's so annoying.
Right.
It's just like, oh my goodness. But knowing what you know, because I mean, like, we don't know what happened. Like, there's only two people that know what happened in the hotel.
Right.
There's only three people that know what happened in a different situation, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So, knowing what you know from third-hand accounts, why at that point did you choose to stay silent?
So knowing what I know from then, so when I found out about it, that's where I was more defending the situation of what Monica's account was and why I was frustrated at the process. Because when it comes down to, in that moment, more of like a he said, she said situation, it's not ever going to make it in as a victory in court. And that's where I felt like, again, where I mentioned he was taken advantage of, in a sense, because it was a heightened thing, to push towards a lawsuit, which would never have success because of the history, the videos, not that they were illegal or wrong, but it just shows that there's a diminished reputation in a sense because of the commentary, the apology letters, which aren't bad. It just it points towards a doomed lawsuit. So in those moments, it does come down to Monica's interpretation, his interpretation of an event. And then, of course, as her fiance, I'm going to believe her side. And everyone's totally okay to believe the other side if they want. But at the same time, those things won't win in a lawsuit situation because
100%.
it comes down to that. And that's where it's like the guy ends up losing horribly, and then fans got taxed, which they wanted to show support, but maybe they could have used that money to do PR or just sustain while he was doing the work that he promised he was going to do, and he said he was, and I believe him. Going to therapy, reconnecting with God, whatever it is, cool. Well, then that could have sustained him for this time period while he was doing that work. But instead, out of whatever nature it needed to be, it was pursue a lawsuit, and now he owes a ton of money to people. And for what? Like, what was the point of that? And that's the sad part where I feel like it needs to be looked into, because it's unfortunate that got as far as it was, but it put us in a pickle because I'm not going to back down, because I feel like we felt like we didn't, our position was what it was. We didn't lie. And I'm sure he feels similar because it's, in his opinion, he didn't feel like he did anything wrong. But when it's a difference of an opinion, that's not actionable. And now it's almost $1 million later. and everybody's right back at the same thing. It's just a difference in opinions.
Well, I have there's a few things that I'd like to comment on that,
Sure.
and I'll start with the first one. Obviously, best place to start. But I'll propose to you here. I'll propose to you this. All right. So myself and Mr. Hop, we run Kitchener Comic Con,
Mhm.
and I'm honestly going to put it out there and say, if it was not for Vic having the lawsuit,
Mhm.
and everything, and basically all of this information coming out and following it for so long, et cetera, that greatly changed our view on inviting him.
Right.
Like that made the difference in having him invited to our convention. So
Mhm.
like in terms of, do I think that it's completely frivolous that he filed it? I don't think so.
Right.
Like it's probably a very expensive way to salvage kind of a reputation a little bit, but like I do think that there was some degree that it was worthwhile for him to do so. And on the other side, and another part of that, what you were saying, that I wanted to touch on,
Mhm.
just as a personal experience. So years and years and years ago, and this is something I've talked about before and talked about openly, so I'm not looking for sympathy. Like I was a victim of sexual assault,
Mhm.
and I knew the person, and like he was good friends with a lot of the community, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. And I didn't go to the police. I didn't
Mhm.
say anything, et cetera. I just, pretended like I just wanted nothing to do with him anymore. I went away from the situation. So I understand the fear of
Mhm.
that. Like I understand the in the moment, trying to make like everything's okay.
Right.
But I also understand that anything that happened subsequent to that, right? Like I can't go back 20 years later and call that guy out, because
Mhm.
that's my responsibility. That's a burden that I have to carry because of me, right? Because of me, he might have gone and done the same thing to somebody else.
Right.
So in terms of the broken staircase, I am the person that's responsible for each subsequent one of his abuses.
Mhm.
If and hopefully he, after what happened with me, he realized and came to terms and was a better person. I don't know, because I've never spoken to him again.
Right.
But that's a burden that I have to live with for the rest of my life. And
Right.
like that's a burden that most sexual abuse victims have to live with, that choose not to go the route of seeking justice and
Right.
stuff like that. So I can sympathize, I can empathize with Monica's situation of not wanting to jeopardize her career, her friendship, her this or that, whatever else. But I just like it. It always makes me wonder, where for people that are outside of that situation. So, like, did you find out about that like years later, or did you find out about that immediately?
Right.
Just for my own curiosity.
No, that's a great question. Monica and I have been dating now, I think, closing in on 6 years. So really, I found out about the details of what happened right after kind of all this broke. Um, and so it was a little bit of like, you know, not necessarily a shock, because
Hmm.
it, things had been mentioned in passing, and that there's some behavior stuff. But before I go into that, I first want to apologize to you that anything has ever happened to you like that, and also hopefully you don't carry that burden of being the missing staircase, because no matter what you decided, you can't control another person's actions. Just like you mentioned nature, you're not the reason for anyone else's attack. The person who attacked you is. Now, I get why the dichotomy of the thought, if I spoke up, then maybe something could have been prevented. And that is a burden that a lot of people feel. But that is something that hopefully one day you don't feel that anymore, because the it is scary to come out. It is painful to talk about it, because what were you doing? What were you wearing? What was all of the subsequent questions that come out, because it is a question that needs to be asked. So sometimes it's easier just not to talk about it. But I know that is something that a lot of victims suffer from and feel, is like, wow, if I would have said something sooner, maybe it would have done this and that. But in my opinion, I feel like, I hope one day that you really truly feel and come to a peace that that isn't your fault. None of it, no matter what happened to anyone else. Like, you had to do what you had to do. But going back to mine, I found out about relatively early in the lawsuit process, or not lawsuit, but in the social outpouring. And I
Yeah.
know that was something that, like, ooh, Monica doesn't trust you, but, or didn't want to tell me. But it goes back to, like, I have full trust in her. She is with me. She's her own individual person. And some of her past, I don't need to know every single bit of it until she chooses to tell me. That's her story. That's her life. And same thing with me. She doesn't know every single little thing about me, and that's just my choice. And I think that what makes a great relationship is two individuals who live together and who are together that have their own like little circle, and she has her circle, or he has, whatever the partnership relationship dynamic is. But then there's a little part in the middle where everything kind of comes together. But that doesn't mean there's not individual stuff outside of it. And so that part, when was shared with me, did cause some stress, because then hearing from other people and additional people, and it just kind of started flooding in, made me really angry. I have 3 sisters. And so one of my sisters was a victim of sexual abuse and assault. And I handled that guy out pretty quickly. And it's part of what my nature, of course, being aggressive is also one of my greatest weaknesses. But it's been the part that got to this. So yeah, it was a shock to hear it. But it's okay. You're there to comfort and be there. But but I reach out to him even after that to hear his side of the story. I sent him an email, or to his team. I think his mom runs that website, but reach out to him, try to get a meeting to talk, because before the lawsuit ever got filed back in February, and I didn't hear back from him. But I wanted to just hear both sides, because obviously it was heated, and I wanted to see what I could do, because I knew he was stressing out and probably freaking out, but maybe there's something I could offer, or chat, anything. But here we are.
So, like, knowing that we probably should have handled things differently back in the day, but we can't go back and fix that. And you said getting to this point, it's been kind of rough on both sides. At any point in time, and you don't have to get into details about the nitty gritty. This is just basic yes, no. At any point in time, did you consider settlement?
The only type of thing we would ever consider, or me personally would consider, is if it was a very public apology on his part, and him dropping the lawsuit. But that would be the only thing that I would ever consider for any type of settlement. But outside of that, no.
Well, that's a good question though. Like settlement would be dropping the lawsuit, and he kind of technically did apologize. Did you want something more of a direct apology to Monica, or
more about like the tactics that were employed? Maybe not even under his approval, but some of the vicious online tactics by Nick, and some of the other YouTube people that were just kind of just saying some really hurtful things about her and me in general. But smoking cigars together and doing conventions like that really was an insult to the process, and I feel like was done in poor taste. And maybe he didn't know all the information that they were doing and saying. But if this would have been done by different attorneys that handled it a little bit different on his side, probably wouldn't have been as visceral and socially charged. But I feel like part of the tactics, maybe, and this is my opinion, were to make it really difficult and painful to try to coerce a settlement or coerce us. But whenever you have the case that we had, there is no incentive for us to necessarily settle, because we have all of the things that we have. So it's like, hey, you want to beat up against this brick wall that ain't going anywhere, cool. But that's where it's one side has to submit, and we're like established, so it would end up being the other side, and that's the immovable part. But
well, and like, I understand, like I want Vic's side to heal, and I want your side to heal, because ultimately, for things to get better for both of you, you both have to get better.
100%.
100%, right? So from your side of things here, because you've been unpacking a lot of stuff. Like you're clearly hurt from a lot of the stuff that's been said about Monica by individuals online, et cetera, right? So here's a kind of a question statement type of thing. So from our perspective as a convention, right, we had a lot of people attack us, attack myself, attack Mr. Hop. We had people attack people at City Hall, everything else like that, say really terrible, horrible things about us. I don't blame you for that.
Right.
I don't hold you accountable for that, right? I'm not looking to you for an apology. I appreciate your apology, but
both
that's
do.
not, yeah, and that's not something that should be on your shoulders, because I know you have no control over that. I know that you're not out there every day telling people, go blockchain this person, go make fun of this person, go make videos, or go make images about this person. I know you're not doing that. So I know that's not your fault. On the flip side of that coin, and I'm hoping that I can bring an epiphany to this, Vic isn't doing that either.
True.
He's not doing that to you guys. And Vic probably a little bit more than some of us. Like I've met him personally. I've known him for I've spoken to him over emails, but sat down and had meals with him maybe just a couple of days of my life. But you and Monica know him probably more than most of the people here on this show and watching the show. But you would know that he's a showman, right? That he's a professional. He's a consummate professional. He'll go to conventions. Like we invited Vic to Kitchener Comic Con before we invited anybody else.
Right.
And anybody else that was invited to the show, we didn't ask Vic's permission.
Right.
We didn't ask their permission to be there with Vic or whatever. And so Vic doesn't have a choice per se, and he's being professional when he's there, right? Whether he likes the person or he doesn't like the person, I'm sure he's going to act the same because he's just that type of person.
Right.
So for him to sit down and have cigars with somebody, I don't think he's doing it out of a malicious way. And I understand from an emotional perspective, it can seem like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that I think what is hurting you here is that you think that Vic has any control over what people say.
Right.
And you think that there's a silver bullet by having him apologize for all this stuff, that it's going to make everything go away.
And some of it's over his power too.
Right.
It's a lot of it's out of his power, but just as much as I'm not expecting you to come on here and tell everybody on the hashtag side of your dispute to stop doing what they're doing, because I don't think that's going to be effective.
So everybody stop using kick Vic and kick this and kick anything. Fuck hashtags. Yes.
Hashtag fuck it.
Hashtag that.
Yeah, there we go.
So I don't think that anyone's going to listen to that, as much as they support you.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is like we have to understand. Like I understand, you're not responsible for that. And no matter how many apologies you put out there, no matter how many apologies Vic puts out there, that's not going to change anything. And from Vic's side, like he was the plaintiff, he was the one bringing the case, and you're the one defending yourself. So obviously you're going to be opposed.
Right.
But at any point in time, either one of you could have sat down at the table and said, look, let's just hash this out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're saying, well, I want you to apologize for everything that everyone else said about me, that's not within his power, right? And if you really want to, and this is just from myself, if you want to be the bigger person, you can say yeah, this is something that I'm willing to swallow. You know what? I'll sit down. We'll ease up. We'll talk about this.
Right.
And we want a resolution. Because main thing about the communication in that one video that you were talking about of mine is that when people enter into debates and communication, when they're looking to win, that's automatically going to lose.
Yep.
Right. You have to have a goal of that to learn. And I think both sides have learned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen and I've met Vic, and I didn't know what he was like before, but I know what he's like now. Mm-hmm. And I think he's a wonderful human being and a wonderful person.
Right.
I've never met you before, and I've heard about you, but I've never met you before.
Right.
I had a chance to sit down and talk with you, and I think that you're a different person than you were 16 months ago.
Yep.
Like that part I can see in the way that you're talking and the opinions that you're having. So my question would be, I mean, and again, you don't have to talk legal strategy, you don't have to talk about anything like that. If the situation came up where you had a chance to sit down at a table and say, let's just settle this and let's just get this over with, I'm willing to talk, I just want things to go back, I want people to heal, would you take that chance?
I'm always open to having a good, positive conversation.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
And just take this at face value, just as an implorement from my side of things, not from Vic or not from any of the hashtags, just from my side of things. If that situation comes up, honestly, please put your emotions in check. Sit down, look what's best for yourself, look what's best for your fiance and your family, and please do what's best for the situation, because it's been 16 months. People have been beating themselves up. There are people that have never seen each other before, that are never going to see each other, that are literally trying to destroy themselves on social media over something that they're not even involved with anymore.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. Like, yeah, I get that that yourself and Vic are kind of figureheads on the situation, and like I don't include Monica in that, because Monica has done more of like a taken a back seat, and I'm not saying in a bad way, but she hasn't spoken up, and she hasn't raised up to speaking about this in this situation of the people that have been talking. Like you've been one of the bigger figureheads that have put yourself forward. So if it comes down between you and Vic into talking and stuff like that, I think it would probably benefit everybody in the situation if you want to be a bigger person and you want to take that on yourself and make that step. I think everybody, I think people that are supporting you would still support you,
Right.
etc. So just from my perspective, you can take that for what you will.
And I know that, like, the way it is for me, if the dude texted me tomorrow and was like, "Hey, you want to meet up and just chat?" I don't know how it works with lawyers and all that. I would meet with them. You know, that I don't, and that's the thing that I think I right now, if Vic wanted to talk and chit chat with me, I would. Like, I would have no problem with it. And I agree with you that it would be nice to be able to sit down. So I appreciate your take on it. And I think surprisingly, you'd see that my opinion is pretty close to yours in that situation. And I value how you present that so much. And I that's why I really liked your videos. And that's why I agreed to even come on your show. Because I like that it's not polar on either side. It's very human level thinking and processing.
Well, and I'm hoping that at the end of the day, when you walk away from this conversation, that you kind of take a minute and you think about it, and you look at the situation, and because like I understand that you're having a little bit of fun with things, with the comments and with going on the kiwi farms, and you're finding an outlet with that, because I mean everybody's bored right now.
Yes.
Understatements.
If you're finding that you're getting stressed out because of what people's opinions of you are and things like that, you have to look at your actions, and you have to tailor that accordingly, right? You have to take a step back. So like if you're seeing something that someone's saying online, and they're saying it's like, well, they think poorly of you, or they think you're X, Y, or Z. You have to look at that and say, why does that bother me? Right? Why do I let that bother me? Why do I let this person who I'm never going to see or talk have an opinion about me? Why do they care? And basically, at that point, you have to evaluate: is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? Is this worth like taking time away from my family, etc.? Is this worth taking emotional energy away from my family and things like that? Because from that point, then you can start saying, okay, and it's baby steps, right? It's building blocks, right? Like Rome wasn't built in a day. Mr. Hop wasn't like socially trained in a week, right?
Oh, wow. Thanks, Trump. Appreciate that, eh? All comes back to me.
It does.
It's all your fault.
Everything's my fault. Like, honestly, I'll use Mr. Hop as an example, as my little guinea pig here. When I first met him, like most of the convention community absolutely hated him. Like they wouldn't piss on him to put him on. They wouldn't piss him on if he was on fire.
Wow.
Right? It was.
I'm
bad.
still here. You realize that, right?
Yeah, I'm getting to the good part.
Okay, good.
You have to go through the gristle to get to the meat.
True. That's true.
So, basically, when I met him, like people were telling me, don't work with him. Don't waste your time on him. Like he's this, he's that, he's that. I'm like, let me make my own decisions. Let me make my own mind up. I'm gonna give him 2 years. I'm gonna work with him for 2 years, and if he doesn't work, if he reverts back to whatever else, then I'm just gonna call it there and then walk away. But if he shows growth, I'm gonna stick with him. And I think here we are, like almost like 8-9 years later. I don't even know how long it's been, but like I've been working with him for a long time. Like we put together 6 Kitchener Comic Cons. We put together like 3 Emiko's mini conventions. We put together quite a few events together. And exactly, in Zombie Walks. So from where he is now to where he was, like that is a huge distance traveled. And it's not, it was not in a day, right? We're talking about a very long time, and there's still lots to go. I mean, we all have miles left on our speedometers, right? We have we have some mileage left to go, and every day that we live, we have to learn something new. That's the idea. So, like, I'm hoping that and I'm seeing, like, at least from what you're talking about, Ron, that you've learned a bit from where you were to where you are now, and hopefully you continue to keep learning.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that that translates into a realization later on, and maybe, hopefully, one day, yourself and Monica can make friends with, can make amends. Or, I'm not saying friends, like, obviously not go out for drinks or anything. Probably not, but at least to a point where you're not adversarial,
Right.
and you can continue your lives, and everyone involved can kind of have a fulfilling life. So
I agree.
yeah.
Awesome.
So was there any questions you had, Mr. Hop, for him?
Well, yeah. The biggest advice I would give you, for what it's worth, is that just work with what you can control, because anything beyond that, you can't control it. Like, as an example, you said before, getting a full apology from Vic for all the nasty things that people could say. He can't issue that. The only thing he could do is basically work within what he has. And one of the few things that I've learned from the last little while is just do what you can.
Yeah.
Anything more than that, you're going overboard. At the same time, you start getting obsessed with stuff, and then the next thing you know, you're up late at night, wondering if the things you've done were correct or not. And the next thing you know, you're overcompensating, and you just start getting this whole giant bad headspace, and just goes on and on and on. And again, that's probably the best thing you could do. Plus, on top of that, consider maybe taking the initiative. Maybe instead of him contacting you, maybe you contacting him. Perhaps maybe that might work as a suggestion, for what it's worth. Because again, the whole thing that people want is to resolve things and move forward, because it's for fans. It's all about the good times and going back to that, stuff like that. So that's probably the biggest thing I probably would suggest overall, because again, if you're waiting for something that's not going to happen, it's not going to happen until you take the initiative, type of thing. But before you take that, you got to ask yourself, is it worth it?
And did you have time for more questions, Ron?
I did have to jump off here pretty quickly. I've got some people coming over, but I could probably answer one or two more.
Perfect. I just have a couple more questions here for you, and then we'll let you jump off. I really appreciate your time too, by the way. Thank you so much for carving time out for us. So I just one quick question here. Would you consider at all proposing a mutual apology as a settlement option?
I'd have to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, just give it some thought. Because I mean, I think that would give something that you're both looking for, and something that would solve things without any more of a mess and whatever else, and anything like that. And yeah, I completely forgot my second question, so that was terrible. But I'll have to email you later or something. But did you have anything else to say that before you hopped off there, Ron?
No, really. I think you guys are great. I hope you guys continue your show. I see you got hockey sticks here. Who's your favorite teams? Are we the Canadians? Which guys are you guys going for?
Oh my goodness, I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
Like it?
Die hard.
I like the Calgary Flames.
I'm from Boston, so
total enemies.
But you guys always had the best goalie back. Patrick Roy is insane. So
that's true. Very true. That's true.
Yeah. No, anytime you guys ever want to chit chat, just let me know, and I'm here for you guys to answer any questions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ron. I appreciate it.
And have a great afternoon.
Yep, you as well. Take care.
What's up and bye.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Well, that was an interesting conversation.
That was
very interesting.
Deep and heavy. Goodness gracious.
I know. I put on my Dr. Phil hat there. I apologize to the audience.
The only thing you didn't say is that what was it? Truth is like a pancake. Regardless how thin it is, it has two sides.
No, you see, the only thing I didn't say was we're gonna go to the ranch.
Oh,
we're gonna take you to the ranch.
Oh my goodness gracious! Wow.
That's a lot to unpack. I mean, that's a lot of stuff that we.
It was.
I guess it's been kind of like I've been wanting to ask it for over a year.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's people in the audience that have been trying to ask it for well over a year too. Mm-hmm. But very, very interesting. I'm hoping that he can take away a little bit from that and hopefully make some progress with that.
Well, it all comes back down to positivity, right? So On the end of the day, that's sort of what matters.
Rick Nikita says Ram Ranch, 18 naked cowboys.
Oh my goodness gracious! Well, you know
Oh
what?
my
While we're
goodness.
talking here, I'm gonna dip into a little bit of the Crystal Skull.
Oh god, I have to refill on my Baileys. I completely blew through that.
Oh, really?
I blew through my first glass.
Become an alcoholic, my dear friend.
No, I'm Irish. I'm allowed to.
Oh, I see. Being half German, I don't know what that allows me to have, but however,
You can have beer.
That's true.
Only in
Maybe
October, though.
That's true. That's true. But as I said before, I am half German, so the other parts of me allows me the special privileges of X, Y, and Z. So,
And I am reading chat as well, folks. Generally, when we have guests on, we don't really have the chat windows up. I do promise I am reading every single one of your chats, and I'm laughing along with you.
And I'm glad you're reading it because it's me with all my little cataracts on my eyes and stuff. Kind of difficult to do. So,
and as Spectre Gaming wants to know, is that Crystal Skull Head vodka?
It is Crystal Skull, the best
Yes,
vodka that Dan Aykroyd could possibly produce, and also the fine people in Nova Scotia.
Oh yeah,
And it's
I'm having the
stuff.
original Bailey's Irish Cream.
Yeah, I wish I picked some Baileys up myself, but oh well, no big deal. But yeah, no, some interesting stuff from that there, Crumb. And he handled that exemplary.
Well, I think from all sides it was a pretty good conversation, and I'm hoping again that he can see the parallels here, because I mean a lot of the stuff that we talked about, and I didn't really want to drill him too hard, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to drill him too hard.
Yeah, and there's silly questions I want to ask too, but they were just silly questions, and you handled that with a level of sophistication and class. It's like amazing.
Yeah, basically, I'm hoping that he saw in that conversation basically everything that I talked to him about. He's done to Vic, right?
Yeah.
Unless I'm mistaken, and people in the chat correct me, but like everything that I tried to bring up was stuff that he's basically like that is happening to him is like has happened to Vic because of stuff that they've talked about.
And it's the same stuff that happened to me too, on a smaller level.
Yeah, and it's stuff that happened to you, and it's and I'm hoping that people out there that are going through this right now also see this and get this as well, because honestly, it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming when you have a lot of people that were what seems like a lot of people on the internet, when it's really just a handful of people.
Yeah,
and it's just like. Yeah, how do you deal with that? The question is, it's like how much control do you let it have on you? Is really what it is, right?
That is true.
And so I'm hoping that he sees that, and I know that he was saying that he's confirmed that it is him on YouTube commenting on the channels, and he's confirmed that it is him on the Kiwi Farms commenting on as well, and so he's saying that he's doing it for fun. So. I mean, that is what it is. But I mean, like when you're sitting there and you're embroiled in drama, and this is for people out there, not just Toya, but for yourself and everybody else. When you're embroiled in drama, the last thing, especially if you're stressing out about it, right? If you're having fun with it, if you're laughing, if you're like lighthearted, whatever else, that's great. No problem. That's awesome. You do you. Have fun. But if you're at the point where you're stressed out and it's affecting your daily life, then you need to think twice about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you need to really question, is it worth your time? Is it worth your emotional strife to keep doing that? So.
Well, at the same time there, all the questions you're asking were spot on. Those are some of the questions I'd asked as well. So again, a damn good interview there, Crumb. Damn good interview.
Yeah.
So
it is what it is.
Walks away from that and takes a little positivity from it and thinks about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I hopefully can see some progress there. I mean, I know I've had so this is not something I've talked about a whole lot, but I did have heart-to-hearts with Vic Mignogna when he was at our convention. I did have some long talks with him about the situation too, and how to deal with this stuff. And I honestly do think that being kind to certain people, not to everybody, because I mean, you have to give people the choice, right? You have to give people the choice if they want to be kind, or if they want to keep doing stuff that's going to keep them in where they are, right? Yep. And that's to everybody in the situation. So when I look at it, it's like if you want to look at these people that are doing like the worst stuff, and we know who they are. You know, they they have some interesting pseudonyms for their names, but basically, if you want to try and stop them from doing it, you got to raise the people up around them, right?
Yeah.
You gotta raise people up around them so that they're the only ones at the bottom. And at that point, it's their choice if they want to be staying at the bottom or if they want to get better. Because there's a lot of people that really, really enjoy miring in the dirt and the sludge and being really, really terrible people. They really enjoy that. But at the end of the day, they're not going to change unless they want to change. And it's fun for them because they have friends that are down there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. I'm going to grab a quick sip here so you can elaborate a little bit more on that while I drink.
Well, basically, when it all comes down to particular stuff, it's again, as you said before, there, Crumb, you could either rise people up or basically sink down with them. And one of the few things that we've gone through is that there's a lot of individuals out there that want to perpetuate drama just for the sake of drama because maybe they get something from it. Maybe there's a shot of endorphins that go through their head that they have to have on a constant basis. But again, the biggest thing from all of this is that if there is some sort of resolve from all of this, then everyone wins. Like as an example, when you have like a faceless, nameless, or horrible corporation that's doing one thing to you, that's one thing. When it starts getting to more of a personal level, that's a whole other aspect. Plus, on top of that, through all of this, there's been shots fired from individuals, and if that could get repaired sooner or later, then that works. That works for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the bottom line of bottom lines. Just be positive, get this stuff done and over with, and just move on. And I think that's the important part, right, Crumb? Just moving on, right?
I think moving on is the most important part about it, honestly. For a lot of things. I mean, for certain things like this lawsuit and stuff like that, obviously there's still more ground that needs to be covered. There's still appeals that need to be decided. Things are still going. I think the latest thing was it was pushed out till June now. It was supposed to be around May 20th. I think it got pushed out another month.
Oh yeah,
but,
for obvious reasons, like falling, like the world coming to an end type of thing.
yeah. Understandably, but like honestly, people at the end of the day just want to move on with their lives. Most people do anyway. Just want to move on with their lives and things like that. And for certain things, I mean, you see it, right? I mean, look at the responses of the people like Sean Schemmel, like the people Chris Sabat, and that when they were called out for situations, they didn't say a damn word about it. Nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
and one second, we
got this.
Spectre Gaming says a Sir replies in reply to the cross appeal is due June 19th. Now there we go. Confirmation from Spectre. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's I mean from the perspective of the lawsuit, yeah, there's still more ground to cover. But once that has reached a finality, like once that's gotten to the point where it cannot go any further, whether that's appeals to the Supreme Court, what have you, that still has some mileage left in it. But everything else in between, I mean, Vic going to conventions and stuff like that, there's really no controversy in that anymore. Yeah, there's no controversy in Monica going to conventions or what have you, etc. Funimation's doing a great job of sticking their own foot in their mouth with all these.
Oh my goodness gracious! Yes, have you heard some of the other drama that's going on with that?
Oh, do tell.
Well, one of the few things I kind of came across in between this and that and other things is that it looks like Funimation is basically censoring some of the material that's coming straight out of Japan for more suited for more North American audience, and at the same time they're pushing an agenda as well. So what's going on here is that you're having two different takes of different productions coming through, and it's like, wow, that's very interesting, especially from someone from Funimation. So I don't know if Crunchyroll is doing this or not, because again, a lot of the stuff I listen to happens to come from more of a Funimation perspective. But it's like, wow, like again, what's a good example for it? Some of the stuff that's happened with My Hero Academia, there seems to be some heavy censoring with that when it comes down to content and things like that.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And on top of that,
weird. Like, didn't they just like change the entire thing? Like, one of the dubs was supposed to, like, the translation was like, "Why are you so distant from me?"
Yep.
and like they changed it to what's with the social distancing. Like that's weird.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, that it's really, really weird to see that happen, because one of the few things we all know is that Funimation is owned by Sony. So it's very interesting to see a sub company doing this to a larger company, because it's interesting to see what's in the final contract of things. Because if they keep screwing around with the narrative, what's a good one that came out recently? God, it was this really severe, adult oriented comedy that came out, Sleeping with Other Aliens or something like that.
Alien reviews or something.
Yeah, something like that. And the thing is, again, this is like obviously adult entertainment at its best, but Funimation just dumped it. And it's like, wow, okay, I watched this thing. I thought some of it was funny. No big deal. But it seems to be Funimation has this bubble wrap narrative they wish to wrap around everything. It's like, well, this is cartoons and this is for children and stuff like that. And it's like, are you kidding me? So
yeah, interspecies reviewer Spectre says
that's it. Thank you, Spectre. Got it in one. Perfect. But
yeah,
again, the thing is, I watched this. I kind of went, it's okay. It's not too bad. But then Funimation went, oh, we can't show this. Oh, no. It's like, what? Okay. So I think they bought the 12 episodes and they're going to stick in some sort of vault, never see the light of day again. Which is like, okay.
Well, it's still an anime in Japan, is it not?
It is, but the thing is that since Funimation has distributing rights in the North American territory, they're not going to touch it. They just basically brought the one thing, and that was it. Done. It's like, wow, that's censorship in itself. And one of the few things I honestly believe is that you don't fix things by banning it. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. I mean, we proved that this year, right? I mean, we could have taken the stance with Kitchener Comic Con and banned a whole bunch of people that were naysaying us, but
isn't that fucking weird that we didn't?
Yeah, we welcome with open arms.
Incredibly odd. All the people that have been chewing the inside of my ass for so many fucking years, we don't look at them and say, "Hey, you can't come to our event." We didn't even say that. We said, matter of fact, we said, "Hey, you know what? You don't have to pay for a VIP pass. You could come on in. We're gonna stick Vic behind a small paywall, and he's not gonna interfere with the fun of everything." And just, I don't know. There's some conventions out there kind of go, "I don't like the way you look, and you're banned from our event." Ha ha! It's like, whoa, okay. And did we do that? Nope. And it's just,
well, I think I'd like to hope that we kind of proved that you can have an event with people that don't like each other. And like even from Ron Toye's mouth, he says that he hopes, like, people can go back and watch it, obviously, but he doesn't mind. He was happy that we had a great event with Vic, everything else like that, and he believes that you can go to an event where someone is that you don't like, and you can support the event without seeing them, which is what happened.
Just to quickly interject, you know what? Also, what that guy did, that guy, he apologized. He didn't have to do that.
No, I get it. I get it. And he did apologize, sure. And like I said, it no amount of apologies from Toye is going to justify or make good everything that everyone had come at us about, because it wasn't instigated by him.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, I can appreciate his apology, but it's not from the people who I'm not going to name because they don't deserve platforms.
I agree.
It's not from the communities that came after us that I'm not going to name because they don't deserve platforms.
Correct.
The apologies need to come from them because they need to take responsibility. They don't need Ron Toye to take responsibility for them.
And you're 100%. And the thing is that when it comes down to it, he didn't have to do that.
It's true.
And he did. And that basically, honestly,
well, that to me,
and that's one of the few things I like about Vic as well. You know,
that to me tells me that he's a different person than he was 16 months ago.
Oh yeah.
Like, is he like completely, Jesus saved, like reborn again? No, I don't think he is. Yeah. But I think he's a different person than he was 16 months ago. And whether that's because this lawsuit changed, basically this lawsuit came out and said, slapped him down and brought him down to reality a little bit, or the whole situation with Twitter wisened him up as to what the internet's all about. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, but bottom line is that he's a changed person, much like the stuff that happened to Vic changed him.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't met Toy. I haven't spoken to him before. This is the first time I've had talking to him. He's a pleasant person to speak to. And I'm hoping that he takes a little bit of insight away from this, realizes that we're like, at least you and I are coming from a point of resolution.
Yeah,
we're not trying to drag this out any further.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I think he's a different person than he was. Do I think that he deserves 100% forgiveness or this, that, other thing? Until he takes the steps to rectify the situation that's currently outstanding. Because obviously his personal issues and things in the past with his divorce and stuff like that, he's taken the steps there because that's between him and his ex or his ex's.
He still has custody over his kid. And the thing is that if he was that particular malicious monster of darkness, the courts wouldn't even give him to him within a New York second. You know what I mean? And the thing is, when it comes to the kid, I am no bullshit, 100%, on the side of the kid. And if the courts have basically viewed that he's parental enough to look after his children, then that's with the courts. You know what I mean? And at the same time here, it's just, I don't know, a lot of good things came from this particular broadcast today. And it's like, I don't know, one of the few things that drives me nuts is that one of the things that we've done, especially talking to our detractors, is that we always offered a chance to talk, sit down, take off the masks, and just talk to person. And a lot of the people that we've offered this to threw it back in our fucking face and said, fuck you. So the way I got to look at that, who's really pushing that particular drama, if you know what I mean? Yeah. And the thing is that with this, I don't know.
Time's going to tell, honestly. and honestly, selfishly, I'll admit, I invited him on because I wanted to make things a bit better for Vic. I wanted to make situation a little less dramatic for everybody involved, and hopefully ease the pain and get people to realize that maybe they weren't as clear cut in this as they were. So I mean, like, at the end of the day, and like, I understand what you're saying, Spectre. I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, it's between him and his ex to decide, right? It's not between us to decide if they've rectified things. I haven't met his ex. I haven't spoken to his ex. I mean, if I had her contact information, I would send her an email and ask her her viewpoints on stuff. But that's really, at the end of the day, it's not my business. But the fact of the matter is like, it's between those two to come to some sort of resolution. It's between Vic and the other parties to come together with some sort of resolution. And if they deem that that's acceptable, other people have to respect that.
That's true.
They can have their opinions about each individual one way or the other, because I'm sure if it did ever come to a settlement one way or the other, people on the one side are going to hate the people on the other side still, and vice versa.
That's a strong word.
Yeah. So I mean, there's been a lot of people saying a lot of different stuff, and a lot of people that have been lying on all sides of the situation. Personally, I've met Vic, and I will say that I don't believe that he's lying. I believe
I met Vic too, right?
I think you did.
I think so.
Unless it was a hologram.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I personally met Vic. I sat down. I looked him straight in the eye, and we had heart-to-heart talks. So I believe what he says. And from our conversations, he doesn't have a reason to lie to me.
Yeah,
because I mean, like,
what came from it? Like,
exactly.
Who are we in the larger scope of things? We're a bunch of nobodies, right?
And at the end of the day, when Vic, like, when I had that conversation with Vic and said, these are the steps that you need to take to start easing things better, he took that advice. Yeah. And he started implementing them. So I'm not going to say, like, he listened to me, so obviously he's the best person in the world. But
he's the bestest ever.
But at the end of the day, it shows, to me at least, that he wants to try to be things to be better. And I'm hoping I can say the same for Toye. I'm hoping that he can try and take some of the wisdom here, try and take some of the mistakes that we've made in the past, and learn from it and make things better. There's already been quite a bit of damage done on all sides.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think it's probably like this quiet period right now is a great time to have a sit down discussion about
I was
you
going to say
know
have a bit of
smoothing
discussion,
things over.
mend some bridges, move
Yeah,
forward positively. Because the thing is that again, we're only on this chunk of rock that goes around the sun so often. And the thing is that who wants to carry this much stress or negativity? You know what I mean?
well, that's the bottom line. And like I said, at the end of the day, you can't control everything. You
Yeah.
can't control nature. Nature is gonna be around long before you were, long before after,
Yeah.
or long after you are. So
You, you can only
it's,
really control the things that are in your power.
you can only control the things that are in your direct control,
Yep.
and even then, that's up to a greater party, a greater power at that point.
Yep.
But no, honestly, speaking to Vic and speaking to Ron, I think they share a lot of the same wants out of the situation. I think that
Okay.
they both want to come out, like they both want the same thing essentially. They both want to just be heard, have people understand their sides of it, and then
Yeah.
move on. I think that's the big part. They want people to move on from this.
Yeah.
They don't want people to mire in it. And like I understand that as of yesterday, things were still being said by Ron Toye,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. But like he said on stream here, he's doing it because it's fun. And this
Well,
isn't
their
this
choice.
isn't no, this stream isn't about what he said or what he's done or whatever else. This
Yeah.
stream was hopefully about educating him and getting him to realize that maybe you're doing something stupid. Maybe you need to rethink your way of doing this.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I was trying to get across today.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that
Um,
the understanding of that really came through. And I'm hoping that individuals will pick up on the positivity of this and move forward with that. Because again, the thing is that who needs the extra drama? I
yeah,
think that's usually a catchphrase with most people. But the thing is, let's look at that for a really quick Toronto second or two, if you know what I mean. Who really needs the extra drama? Does it affect you directly? Is it impacting your life? If the answer is no, then who gives a fuck? Like honestly, like truly, who really cares? Like again, the thing is that whatever happened in the past has happened in the past. Like as an example, Mr. Toy was saying about things that happened with his previous relationship, and that works for all aspects, if you know what I mean. But
yeah.
it's just I don't know. All
Because
adulting is hard in
well,
2020.
of course, adulting is hard. And honestly, looking at everything, sometimes sometimes you don't realize things until you flat out say it yourself, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And when you're forced to think about it and everything else like that. And I know I was a little bit harsh on him today. I could have been a lot harsher,
I
but
think you were respectable and also professional. The thing is that you didn't go into any super duper negative, because if you did, it'd be kind of going, "Whoa, Crumb, what are you doing?"
well,
And
yeah. And in the
you
same respect,
know,
he was a guest, and I don't want to
yeah, and the thing is,
alienate him.
and at the same time, you know me. If you cross a certain line, I'll be the first person to step and say, "Crumb, what are you doing?" Really.
Yeah,
But the thing is, I didn't, because you were on point. And the thing is that, again, there's a lot of stuff that needed to be said here. And the thing is that us as fans that are concerned for all parties involved, I think these are things that need to be said. Plus, on top of it, we didn't perpetuate with more drama or anything else like that. And
yeah.
we hope that Mr. Toya there will take away from this particular stream and make it positive. Like, there were some silly questions I want to ask him myself, but I sort of stayed away from that because, again, what you asked him was solid and genuine and to the point. And at the same time here, you weren't making fun of him, and it wasn't really, portraying negativity and stuff like that. And again, hopefully Mr. Toya here could take the information or this particular experience and make it a positive one and move forward with that.
Well, and honestly, that's what I'm hoping. I truly, honestly mean this when I say that I'm hoping he takes something away from this stream, something away from this talk, and a little bit of understanding that there are both sides on this, and that hopefully,
And-
maybe he realizes he's being a little bit extra with it, right?
this is true. You hear that very diplomatically. Like the big thing is that from all of this is that as you keep saying, my dear Crumb, where does the healing really begin?
It's true.
Do we keep ripping off the scab and kind of looking like, oh, look, the scab used to be a little pinprick. Now it's grown 3 inches across my leg. Oh, look, I wish we could heal from that, but I guess we can't. But the thing is that from all of this is that the healing has to begin somewhere.
It has
And
to.
I honestly, truly believe that individuals who've been part of the stream can see that, and hopefully they can move forward with that. Because the thing is that negativity gets people nowhere. It gets them more stressed, and the thing is that they start getting more illnesses and stuff like that. Like, I'm a small victim of that myself. But when it really comes down to it, it's just stuff like this needs to be talked about and move forward with. And at the same time, we're living in this really strange age with everything that we're saying is being recorded and duplicated and never really goes away. So when you tell somebody to go fuck themselves online, that shit follows you forever and ever.
Well, at the same time, to add on to that conversation as well.
Yeah.
I'm not telling anybody at all to stop saying what they're saying. Like, I mean, anyone's going to say what they want to say. That's not a problem. You know, free speech. Y'all can have it. Y'all can say what you want to say. Y'all are going to say what you want to say. No one can take that away from you.
That's true.
What I am saying is for as an individual, for each individual out there, rethink what you allow yourself to be upset by. Because we've kind of conditioned ourselves in the past 10, 20 years to be offended by things that are really not that offensive per se. But at the end of the day, is we all need to grow a little bit of a thicker skin, because it's not like, it's kind of like eating dirt as a kid, right? Right? You think about it, it's kind of like eating dirt as a kid. You just let kids go out and be kids, and they'll smash each other's with rocks, and they'll break a leg, and they'll drink seawater, and they'll get sick. But at the end of the day, they're going to bounce back, and they're going to heal, and they're going to get better, and they're going to learn from that experience.
That's right, especially drinking deeply from the seawater.
Exactly. But but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, okay, they might have gotten some parasitic virus, but they didn't kill them, and they got better from it. But they learned not to do that anymore, and they learned to be better. But it's, if someone calls you an asshole, it's like, okay, that's nice. What does that do to me? Did it affect my life? Like, I asked him straight up, does this affect your life at all?
And what did he say?
And he said, no, it doesn't.
There you are.
It might make for some awkward conversations and things like that, but it doesn't. At the end of the day, it does not affect his real life. It does not affect his job. It does not affect his ability to make a living.
And isn't that the weird part?
So, like, I'm hoping in my heart of hearts that he realizes what he said and did, and what others have said and done. Mostly just for himself, because he can't be responsible for other people.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that he realizes what he has said and done actually affected Vic Mignogna personally in his life. It has done more to Vic than it ever has to him, period. And I'm hoping he comes to that realization, because in his own words, he's going through a great deal of stress, a great deal of strife, and things like that.
And the thing is that as some people don't really understand, maybe they're too young, stress will fuck you up.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really will.
It'll make you do a lot of weird stuff.
Well, not quite weird stuff. The thing is that, again, the body chemistry from that, if you let stress going too long, it's like, whew, it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm hoping at the end of the day, he can realize that the actions that they have taken to this point really did affect somebody offline for something that was really not something that should have been online to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason it got to this point. That's the whole reason. Like, I don't think he's ever heard, like, I think we might have been the first people to tell him that because of this lawsuit, we invited him.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if it was not for the lawsuit, if it was not for all the facts and details being poured over daily by thousands and thousands of people, fact checking and looking into it, all of this research that literally took fucking months, I don't have time to do that. You don't have time to do that.
No, but we did find the time, didn't we?
So, well, if the thing was, it's like, if it wasn't for all of that, we wouldn't have had the information to make the informed decision about inviting him as a guest to the convention. So if anyone out there, and I don't think that he's, I don't think that he's ever heard anyone say this from a convention's perspective. I don't, that
especially from a
because of, well, yeah, Canadian convention,
it's important.
that because of the lawsuit, it got him a job. It got him a gig.
And,
Right?
and just not quite a gig. Like, well, one of the few things I don't think a lot of people really understand is the pulp culture or the fandom perspective from all of this. Like, we were the only event that's invited him back in the last 5 years, and that's
In Ontario, yes.
yeah, and that says a lot. Like, I mean, like a lot, and I don't know, Crumb.
It's a lot to unpack. Honestly, it's a lot to unpack. And since all that stuff came out, we were the first Canadian event to invite him. Period.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, okay, we could have we looked at the situation, and I've said this before. When the news first came out, I was against Vic. I had believed initially the claims until the IO9 article, and I found out that the IO9 article had cut bits and pieces of his interview to make it seem, and then I saw the full version of his interview, and I'm like, hold on a second, that's not what he's saying at all. Yep. And then I looked into it. So if it was not for the lawsuit, I would not have had the information to make that decision and say, hey, let's go forward with this. Yeah. And we had a lot of people working on it. And it was like, it's one of those things. It's like, you can't have one person make that decision, because that's way too much information. That's way too much time, especially when you're organizing a convention to put together. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
and the fun thing is, we both looked at the situation. We took it from our both different and very unique perspectives, and it's kind of funny how we drew the exact same conclusion with things.
Yeah. And so, was it worth it? I mean, that's relative. Who knows if it's going to be worth it?
Hold on. I want to answer that. I really do. The question is, was it worth it? I've been asking that question a lot outside of our conversation immediately right here. And I got to answer that. Yeah, it was worth it. We put our money where our mouth is. We basically brought Vic in against a lot of strife. And the thing is that, I think it was worth it, man. I really, really do. At the same time, I'm very proud I worked with you. And
honestly, I would do it in a heartbeat. If someone asked me, would you want to do this tomorrow? I'd be like, yeah, 100%.
I'm right there with you. I'm just not saying that for empty hyperbole. Like, I really, really do. At the same time, the thing is, when it comes to Kitchener Comic Con, I am the final decision maker. It's that simple. And the thing is, that our team knows that, everyone knows that. And if I didn't feel comfortable with that, I'd be going, no, this is done. And at the same time here, the thing is that with my research I did as well, it's like, well, there's a lot of discrepancy that's going on. And again, I really thought that Vic deserves a chance to show himself to his fans. And that's exactly what we did. And at the same time, we had a lot of fun in the process. And I think that's very, very important, because there's so much negativity in today's world. So fucking much.
Well, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? It's about fun. It's about fans.
Yep.
It's about bringing what the fans want to a show.
Yeah.
And that's about that. I mean, at the end of the day, we started the conversation today talking about going digital. I think that is something that's probably going to be like Ron Toye was saying. I don't think it's going to be a complete takeover. I think we're still going to have live events.
My personal opinion is that now, and I don't mean to sound mean, I just think it's a gimmick. I really, really do. It's an extra add-on. Like, the thing is that we've been practicing virtual stuff for some time now, for God's sakes, especially the streaming of our panels and stuff like that. But the thing is, it's going to take a while for people to build it up. And plus, on top of that, as I said before, at the beginning of our broadcast here, when it really comes down to it, it's sort of like nothing can replace the actual physical experience of actually being there. And that's more important there than actually being a part of the actual streaming itself. As it's great, like as I mentioned before, several times before, and I'll say this several times again, it's like I started the streaming process because a buddy of mine who was living in Japan, he really wanted to be part of the Kitchener Comic-Con experience. And the thing is that with my broadcasting skills and stuff like that, and everyone else's help, so forth, and etc., I really wanted to bring a small part of that aspect to his viewing. And the thing is that, again, when it came down to it, it's like we did it. and we put online, and for what it's worth, it worked. But at the same time, is that everything is in the beginning stages of making things work in that aspect. And I hope, heaven forbids, that people never replace the going to a convention in real time versus the online experience. Like, again, experiences this live is very important, as it's great for individuals to be involved with it from more of a remote perspective. Nothing replaces. Hold on, let me take a step back. There's an old idiom that goes out there: 1,000 reread books does not equal one trip. And I'm hoping that people understand that. And the thing is that it's important for people to go out to get in a little bit of trouble and go to a safe event or a welcoming event, if you know what I mean. And I think that's very important for a person's development and who they are as an individual. Because, you go out there and you just do your stuff and you have fun with it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you can't get that experience by being safe in your safe space type of thing. Like, you don't get any real experience from that, and it cheapens the experience overall. It's like you can watch a rock concert online, but who gives a fuck, because you're not there in person and experiencing that particular vibe that's going on.
Well, and I also think it gives people a degree of separation that they might need, for and accessibility too, because honestly, some people might not be able to travel from city to city, or some people might not be able to travel over the border. And it gives people the option to satellite into certain things, and I think it's a really cool avenue to explore.
The thing is that I think you hit the nail right on the head there, Crumb. I think it gives the option, and the thing is, the option shouldn't replace the actual experience.
Yeah,
because the thing is, at the same time here, when Stan Lee passed away, God bless his soul, he said virtual comic books are great and all, but you really can't feel the actual comic itself in your hands.
That's true.
You can't smell it. You can't see it. You can't collect it. You can't do anything with it. It's just there. And the thing is that I think a lot of online experience cheapens that actual experience. And one of the few things I've always been a part of is that it's always important to support your local independent retailers. It's always important to support your local independent local initiative, if you will, because again, it doesn't make your community better. It doesn't make a community. It makes the community better, and that's very important.
Yeah,
it really, really is. And I think a lot of people forget about that because they're always running up the flagpole about, oh, we're more important than this, and oh, that person horrible this, and that person horrible that. And when it comes down to it, who cares? Who really cares? Because there's so much evil in the fucking world. There really, really is, that people lose track of that.
Well, I think honestly, we're living in probably one of the most blessed situations right now, where we don't have to deal with like really horrific things that are going on in the world.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Like, as an example, well, let's dial back to 1940, shall we? Like, it's the Second World War. Do you imagine the tragedies that came up from that?
No, let's go even further back. I mean, like, okay, that's easy pickings. That's low hanging fruit.
Well,
let's talk about let's talk about the Salem witch trials, for example.
Oh my God, you want to touch on that? Woo! All right.
Well, being a surviving witch, I think I'm entitled to. But...
yeah, but at the same time, here I come from a covenant of witches, for God's sake. So
well, here's the funny part.
Yeah, okay, that's the other funny part.
Here's the funny part. I saw something. I think it was Fran Drescher.
Okay,
I know. She was the nanny.
Right? Okay, the nanny of what?
She was from the TV show The Nanny.
Okay,
it was from your era. You should know this.
Oh, from my era. Thanks for making me feel 10 times older again, Crumb.
So Fran Drescher made social media news recently. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure by saying something like really stupid, like 5G, like irradiates people and causes COVID-19. I don't know exactly what it was, but it's something along that line.
Dogs and everything else like that. We all know this, but anyways, please continue.
Yeah, it was like trying to explain how the 5G network is radiation inducing and is drawing in shit from the sun and blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, hold on a second. Let's time out. I'm like, how did we get from burning witches at the stake because the crops didn't grow because the witch put a curse on them?
Sorry, yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Because the witch put a curse on the fields, So we burnt the witches at the stake, and we burnt literally anyone that we thought was a witch, to basically doing the exact same thing. Well, we have to burn China to the ground because they're developing 5G, and 5G is causing everyone to get sick and catch coronavirus. How the fuck did we go from that?
Sorry. Oh fuck! Oh god! Well, I do know with 5G, you could get involved in a very interesting internet conversation. You cook a hot dog on your cell phone at the same time, but that's all speculative. But however, yeah, bud, I totally know what you're saying, and the thing is, I don't know how we get from A to B myself. I just know when it came down to church from back in the day, it's like, oh, you're a witch, and you own lots of land.
Well, it's ours now.
Exactly. When you're burnt at the stake, basically allowing God knows your trespasses. Who gets to keep your land?
It's like, we really like your piece of land. Would you like to sell it? Nope, not for sale. Okay, we'll be
hold on. We really like your land. I mean, really like it.
It'd be a really terrible fucking shame if someone turned out to be a witch now, wouldn't it?
How incredibly odd. What's that? You eat bark because you got a headache? Doesn't sound quite Christian to me. Well, off we go in the Salem trials. Doop, ba-doop, ba-doop. Yeah. Do you like the letter M by chance? No. Well, that's the letter we're using today, Sesame Street kids. I hope you like it.
I mean, we as a history of the human race, we've done some pretty deplorable shit.
Sorry, I'm just giggling at that. That's like, yup.
And that's every culture. That's not just white people. I mean, white people have a laundry list of shit, but
I like to say
every culture
in general versus white people's.
Well, it's like the whole story of what the fuck was it? Saint Patrick.
Oh, tell me a story.
So I don't know. Like this is deep lore, but the whole story of Saint Patrick is how he was famous for running, quote unquote, running the snakes out of Ireland, right?
Really?
Huh. But the reality, as far as I'm aware of it, and somebody in chat might be able to fix me on this one, but Saint Patrick was actually sainted and idolized because he brought Christianity to Ireland, and by the term quote unquote running the snakes out was actually killing all of the pagans.
Sorry. What? Really?
That's what it was. That's what it was. It was kind of like Anglicanized because it's really not a great look on religion to say, oh yeah, we just massacred a bunch of people that didn't adhere to our religious beliefs. But yeah, it was kind of nerfed a little bit in the history books.
Fuck. Wow. So that's why we practice St. Patrick's Day, eh?
Yeah.
That's that makes me sad.
I know. We kind of got over it.
Just a touch, eh?
We kind of got over it.
Oh, goodness gracious.
But yeah, he was the one that was what the heck was it called? Basically crowned with bringing Christianity or it's either Christianity or Catholicism to the Irish.
Oh yeah.
Basically educating the savages.
Wow, that's wow.
I think it was Catholicism. I mean, sorry, Christianity, if I'm mischaracterizing it. Yeah, Catholicism, Spectre says.
That's cool.
I'm about 5 Baileys deep right now, so my lore is kind of blurring together. So
I'm halfway through my crystal skull here of happiness. Jesus,
there you go. So yeah, I guess we'll reach on final thoughts then, because we're just about hitting 2 hours.
Are we really again? Didn't we schedule this for like an hour?
Yeah, we had carved it about an hour. I want to do a special, so everybody out there that's watching, I guess now is a good time.
Well, I think so. Since everyone's freaking attention, but
now's a good time to shill our Patreon.
We have a Patreon.
We do have a Patreon. I actually put it in the description this time.
Oh, that's awesome! Good for you, crew.
So if you want to support the show, very very cheap, minimum $3 a month.
Give us helps $3, cheap bastards.
It's cheaper than a Starbucks trip. So yeah, $3 a month if you want to join our Patreon. Really really appreciate it. It supports the show, and Helps us do what we do. I'm also going to be having a Victoria Day. We're going to be doing a Victoria Day stream.
All right.
For however short or long it is. I picked up a whiskey.
Did you? Which one did you get?
I don't have it. There it is.
Nah.
There it is. All right. I don't have it's on my Twitter though. It's a Suntory whiskey, Toki, from the House of Suntory Whiskey. It's a blended Japanese whiskey. I'm gonna give that a taste on Monday.
You should kick your cam on for 2 seconds to show people the labels. So they can
No, I don't have it plugged in right now.
You don't? Oh, okay. Well, that sucks.
I'm gonna test it out on Monday. I haven't cracked it open yet. I've been saving it, and I have Jack Daniel's honey to keep me tied over. But
Jack Daniel's
honey Jack. No, I'm gonna keep my taste buds clear for Monday and give this Japanese blended whiskey a try. It was not a cheap one.
Sounds absolutely fucking divine, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so keep an eye out on Monday. Probably be about like 5:00, same time we started this stream on Monday, just to kind of celebrate Victoria Day, kind of, because we can't have fireworks, we can't go to the cottage, we can't do anything.
Wait a second, did you hear? I know we talked about this really briefly, but did you hear what they're saying on the radio when it comes down to this year's Victoria Day?
Oh, we have an app.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? It's sort of like, hey, you guys want fireworks? Yeah. You guys want to see real fireworks? Uh-huh. Well, download the app, and you too can have virtual fireworks on your phone. You can watch. It's like, what the?
Download the virtual firework app, eh?
Oh, God, eh? Like, talk about being hosered.
Good Lord.
Gracious, eh? Almost want to take my fist and fucking punch someone in the head. But when it comes down to it, it's like, are you kidding me? Are we reduced down to virtual apps now? Wow.
At this point, yeah.
You would think with all the sacrifice the general public has done, they keep themselves indoors and keep themselves afraid and stuff like that, which is, again, in some aspects, expected. But it's like, hey, look, spend a couple of bucks, get some fireworks up and going, let people come out, keep them socially separated like other drive-in type of thing, and have some fun with it. Fuck this virtual shit.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that at that. And I just want to thank everyone that's been part of the show today. Thank you to Ron Toye for coming out and joining us.
Toye, we do appreciate it.
Thank you to everybody that's joined us in the chat today to make our chat popping and going up. Really appreciate you guys.
Positive energy into things. It's always very appreciated.
Yeah. Every Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be doing Canucklehead shows. Sometimes we'll have guests, sometimes we won't, but we'll always have really cool discussions. We'll always have something to drink.
I think we're always fucking entertaining, if you know what I mean. If people miss out on it, I can always catch us on the replay. If you know what I mean.
Absolutely. So with that,
what was that page? Wait a second before you sign us off. What's that Patreon thing again?
It's a Patreon/Canuckleheads.
That's awesome.
And just before we go, Boo Zor says, "Love how your prime minister was renovating his cottage during the crisis." Yeah, our premier went to the cottage too.
Is that after months and months saying, "Oh
no"? Immediately after saying, "Don't go to the cottage," he goes to the cottage.
Exactly. And remember, he opened up the actual the flower shops just for his wife, perhaps, and the golf courses, exactly.
and the equestrian racetracks. Yeah.
Oh fuck! I love that man. He's awesome.
Yeah. So, but thank you guys all so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it. That is the show for today. So, as always, keep your stick on the ice. We'll see you next week.
For sure. See you all later.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.